You can set the price or you can set the terms, but you can't set both.
Welcome to the Insurance Refocused podcast, where we're highlighting real agent stories and how they are innovating to respond to the changes and challenges happening in the independent insurance industry. My name's Lindsay, and I can't wait to introduce you to my amazing co-host, who just so happens to be my mom, Carey Wallace. Mom, how you doing today?
Lindsay, it is a Monday. That's all I got for you. Today is definitely a Monday. It's rainy. It is cold in Hilton Head, which is weird at this time of year. But other than that, I got up early. I got some exercise in, and I am ready to rock and roll today. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad you say that you got up early and got some exercise in, because we have our Little Sparks. I don't even know what it is. I think it's 100 miles in July, over the month of July, that you're supposed to run. So you better get your steps up so you don't drag our team down, lady. No more sitting in front of the computer. You gotta walk on your treadmill or walk outside, get your steps up before July.
I think we should do a little wager for this, since you sound so confident with yourself. Like, you realize this is post-wedding and you guys are probably going to slack off. So I think there should be some wager about what we're doing with this thing. What do you think?
I feel like that's why it's good to have like a great charity to support, like Little Sparks, where we have to get our steps in to support Rags and the team. So I'm confident that I won't slack off, but agency focused team is coming for the Little Sparks virtual race. I'll tell you what.
We are. Yes.
All right. Well, today, I'm super pumped to jump in. We had a pleasure of having breakfast with Jeff Brehmer at the ISU Agency Principals Forum. And what we were chatting about at breakfast was acquisitions and how to know when to walk away. And as soon as we got up from the conversation, I wrote down in my notebook, all right, this is obviously a podcast that we need to have. So Jeff, really pumped to have you with us today.
Well, thank you, Lindsay, and thank you, Carey. It was nice meeting you guys there in sunny California. That was a great place to have breakfast.
Yeah,
man, that was a beautiful view. I wish we could have spent more time there, because, man, that hotel that it was at was probably one of the best locations I've ever been for a conference.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Agreed. Well, thanks for joining us, Jeff. I can't help but have in my head, like, the Kenny Rogers song. You got to know when to fold them and you know when to walk away, which is a tough thing. I know that's probably dating myself, but that's what I was thinking when you were talking about, I've walked away from a couple of deals. So I would love to hear, first of all, give us just a background, number one, how you made it to the agency, and then a little bit about the acquisition activity at the agency. That would be super helpful to give context to our listeners. And then we'll dive into some of the more specific things about how you've approached different deals.
Sure. I started insurance back, I think it was 2001, 2002, here at Smith Davis. And I was here for 7 years. There were 3 owners at the time, 3 partners. And partners can sometimes not get along. Well, there was one particular that decided to retire in place, and that creates some tension. During that tension, I was looking for other opportunities, so I left. After 7 years here, I went across the river, pursued some other opportunities, and then I always knew I wanted to own my own agency. I'm entrepreneurially minded. Delivered papers when I was a kid, back from when I was 8 years old to. Actually, I think I even did it into, middle school and high school. So always kind of working. That's just who I was. I knew that I wanted to own businesses. My father was a CPA by trade. My brother was a business person as well, buying and selling. So that's just I grew up in it. So after being away from this agency, I kept in touch with my mentor. And in 2016, I came back, and it was kind of like homecoming. It was I came back and I purchased the agency. We had kind of a right out my door here, kind of a powwow with everybody that had been here before I left. And it was the same faces. So it was great. I purchased the agency in 2016, purchased another one across the river in 2018. And then during COVID, purchased my third agency. And these are agencies of decent size. Purchased my last one during COVID in 2020. So I've also purchased some books of businesses, some roll-ins of individual producers that I wouldn't classify as an agency per se.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I love that you made your way back. Like that's not a
Yeah.
story you always hear, right? And the fact that some of the staff was still there and probably super excited to see you back because the retirement in place thing, it impacts everybody. You know, we're not talking any specifics about it, but it impacted you enough for you to leave. And also, you know, you were passionate enough about the agency to come back, but it definitely can take a toll on people. So I love that story. And it's not one you often hear at all, you know?
No, thank you. Yeah, it was an interesting route to get where I'm at.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about, you mentioned the differences between you've bought a couple agencies and then you've bought a couple books of business. When
Sure.
you're going through the due diligence process between an agency versus a producer and the producer's book of business, how do those two differ for you?
Well, one of the biggest things in the book of business would be, what's the makeup of it, and are they going to be helping with the transfer? On two books of businesses, they've been the producer probably waited too long to exit. They got sick, and it was a fire sale.
Yeah.
So on two of them, it was basically set up that I would take over those clients, try my hardest to keep them, and pay 100% of the commission for 1 year to the retiring agent. You know, he wasn't. Neither one of them were around to help in the transition, so it was kind of all hands on deck for us. We were paying him, I thought, what would be fairly. And then the second year, whatever stuck was, profit.
In the decision to buy it, though, so you said it was just a fire sale for those two producers. So it wasn't necessarily like, the producer was coming with it. It was just buy the book of business. So what's the difference between that and then how you decided to purchase the three agencies? Well, the agency is the one that you're at, and then the other
Sure.
two are different agencies, right? That you rolled in?
So yes, absolutely. Each one of them has been kind of the existing producer wants to retire, and retirement means something different for everybody.
Yeah.
So I would go in and, ask how do they want to transition this? Do they want to work for the next 5 years? Do they want to work for the next 2 years? How does that look? And then you just kind of try to create the deal around that. In each one of those situations also, they have all had a price in their mind, but they don't necessarily know what the terms would be. And I'm kind of one of those that I believe you can set the price or you can set the terms, but you can't set both. It's not fair. So you figure out a way that you can get to that price and still cash flow it. Also creating some, back when I purchased the first two agencies, so that'd be 2016 and 18. Then we had COVID happen. There was some some owner financing that during COVID, we weren't really exactly sure what was going to happen. So I reached out to Westfield Bank, and because they're a bank that's owned by an insurance agency or insurance company, they know what insurance agencies are like. So I refinanced that seller debt and was able to get terms that were more advantageous for my cash flow.
So, Jeff, you said some magic words and you have no idea. It's like music to my ears when I hear people say, you can set the price or you can set the terms, but you can't set both. And honestly, it is a matter of price, mechanism, and time. So I would add
Sure.
one more component to that. If you want your money all up front, then that's going to impact the price and the mechanism or the terms. If you want your money over time, it will actually change what that price could be and what that. So, you know what I mean? Like it's those three things have to work in tandem. And that's why when people say rules of thumb, it literally makes my head want to explode, because if you don't know those three components and how different they can be, it will, it could really lead you astray. It could absolutely lead you astray. So you're speaking like a true son of a CPA, which makes my heart happy. Oh my goodness, I love it. So you want to expand on that a little bit and talk about how that's moved and shift for in each of these deals?
Sure. My last deal, I even put in, we had some large municipal accounts, some ones, whenever you're dealing with a board or a city council, stuff like that, it gets, hey, this is political. There might be some guy has a brother in the next city over or town over that has his insurance license. So I was very wary of that one, but the price was fair. The price was set up as such that I thought I was being treated fair. The seller thought he was being treated fair. But because of the wild card with those political accounts, I said, all right, I'm going to put a mechanism in this agreement that if my cash flow drops below 10% of what it should be, then instead of the seller being financed taking that note 6 years, we're going to take it 7 years. I said, you're still getting your money. It's just going to allow me to cash flow this and survive a little bit. And luckily it didn't happen. We've actually grown that agency. It's been quite nice.
Yeah, it's really interesting though. Cash flow is the thing, and people don't speak in those terms because it's not a headline or like a snippet. You have to actually dig in and understand it a little bit, right?
Sure.
The other thing is you've bought several agencies. So you said before we hit record that I think there's this misnomer maybe that once like everything follows the exact same flow, the exact same process, the exact same. I think, in my opinion, nothing could be further than the truth. Like it's really, they're all unique. So why don't you give us some examples of how different potential deals or current deals are, and maybe what made you back away from a deal or two?
Sure. The first deal I did was fantastic. It was like coming home. Everything seemed to fall into place. It was the perfect deal for the perfect time. The second deal I made, I purchased it, I believe, in July. In August, I found out that a producer was taking cash payments, and he was changing one digit on his bank account. He would basically set up EFT, and he was defrauding clients.
Oh my goodness.
So that was 1 month after being at an agency, and that just put a bad taste in my mouth. Had to report it to the E&O carrier. We self-reported to the State Department of Insurance. I was shocked that person, we had all the evidence. The person's insurance license was allowed to expire. They didn't pull his license.
Oh my goodness gracious. Wow.
I was shocked. That's a different deal. And that was, kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth that, who knew what was happening. All in all, that was a really good purchase. It was a profitable purchase, but just the way that went down. Recently, I actually have had 2 referrals for agency sales from a good friend of mine that owns a body shop, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. So there was one particular, the first one that he referred to me was a friend of his wife's, happened to be an hour and a half from my office down in a small town, county seat. But that was one that I walked away from. I helped them find an aggregator, if you will, because that was one of the things that they needed, or they thought they needed, was markets. They had a lot of those county mutuals that were moving out of the state. So they were really kind of struggling. Thankfully, we've been implementing EOS in our agency. We had a coach, and And that's one of the things that got me to walk away from that deal was my leadership team was looking at me like, Jeff, you're taking your eye off the ball. You see this shiny thing, you want it. I'm A-type personality. So I consider making an acquisition winning, when really I should look at it and say, how much would that have cost me? It probably wasn't the right deal. You had two owners, and the size of the book of business wasn't enough to sustain probably two owners and a office staff, but they had it. How is that going to work? And then it's an hour and a half away, so that's 3 hours of driving if I have to go down there. That's a lot of audiobooks and great podcast listening, but that's not not very productive time. So that's I said no, and I helped them out. Said, if there's anything else I can do for you, or maybe I can make introductions to an agency that's a little closer to them down there, it would actually make sense. But for me, I had to walk away, which is something I don't care to do.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me that the reason you walked away from that one wasn't anything that the agency did, right? I mean, it's a little bit. There was two owners that you said, you didn't necessarily want to get involved with the dynamics, but it's more so because your agency wasn't in the right place, and you knew that from doing this EOS. I think there's really big value in that, of like knowing where you are and knowing if you're prepared. The workshop that we did with your group at ISU was all about, preparing to become a buyer, but it really does start with you, right? It starts with your agency and where you are. So that's a really interesting takeaway from that.
Yeah. It was a hard decision to make, but it was the right decision. And I'm glad my team and my coach kind of said, "Hey, Jeff, you really think this is, you said your circle was within 60 miles. I said, I kept on trying to stretch. Well, that's 90 miles as the crow flies, but I couldn't rationalize it.
It's really funny, Jeff, there are so many people in our industry that want to grow by acquisition, and rightfully so. I mean, there's opportunity. There's a lot of people at retirement age. There's a lot of things happening, but oftentimes you get so vested, and it's almost like the momentum picks up, and then you don't know how to stop the momentum. And now you've put enough time and energy in something, you still move forward with the decision that isn't good, even though maybe it deep down in your gut, and then there's regret. There's just no two ways around that. So tell me how that conversation went with your EOS coach, because that can't be an easy thing to stop that momentum, right?
It isn't. And my coach at the time did a great job of asking questions. He kind of used Jedi mind tricks against me. So that's kind of what the deal was. These aren't the droids you're looking for. And it was, are you sure, Jeff? Are you ready? Is this going to take your eye off the ball? I think he let me have my own way, kind of deal. But it was difficult. It was difficult just because the other three acquisitions have worked so well. But you also have to think about what it does to your team.
Yeah.
I don't think our team was ready for another one. And especially if it was one to where we'd have to do a lot of hand holding, which I think this individual one was one that I think there would be considerable amount of trying to transition them. It's almost like changing an agency management system. It's like it's disruptive, and it's not good disruption. It's like I'm writing a ton of business and it's profitable. The one flashy thing that I saw, they had one of those like COVID loans that was an SBA loan for like 30-year amortization with a killer interest rate. I'm like, I've got to have that, because I'm a cash flow guy. I'm like, this is the only way this works. And I wasn't even sure that was going to work. And I'm not so sure the government would allow somebody to come in and take that great interest rate.
Yeah. So when the first agency was so perfect, and then the second one had a little bit of a, oh my goodness. And honestly, your heart drops when you hear someone that's actually being, that's not a thing that everybody has in their world that someone's actually not following the law, right?
Well,
Like that's a scary thing.
I had text messages from this gal. And like, I'm leaving money underneath the front door mat, and
Oh my
like it was
goodness
happening.
gracious.
And he went through 4 or 5 different insurance companies doing the same thing.
Oh my goodness.
So
So did
it
it
was shocking.
change? Yeah. So by the time you got to the third acquisition, did it change the questions you asked to make sure that you were well positioned? And like, I think with every one you learn, right? And
Yes, 100%.
yeah. So tell me what things it changed when you found that out. I mean, no one asked like, hey, are you following the law? Like, are you actually a good person? But did you do something to try and uncover more?
I don't think I did consciously, but it was definitely something that I was looking at the character of the people I was dealing with. Right. And my last acquisition I wouldn't have to question his character. It just
Yeah.
was, there was nothing there that made me. The book of business aligned with mine. Um, he was just a good risk manager. He cared about his clients. He would say no to the wrong clients. So I felt a lot more comfortable in the third acquisition just with dealing with the person.
You know, it's funny. I think that's almost like the bar test. Like, oftentimes the numbers are where people focus. They get on the reports. Like you're inundated with information, but they forget to do the most basic thing, like spend time with all of the people that are now going to be part of your team. And like, do they have technology skills? Do they have the same attitude towards what they write? Do they just have a good attitude, period? Like you got to
Sure.
spend time because anyone can be great in an interview. But if you don't spend time, you miss some of these things,
Yeah.
right?
It was interesting this last acquisition. Now thinking back, he even said, there's 2 people up front, one you don't need. I
Ooh,
said, what? He says, yeah, you don't need that person. I said, well, let's not bring her along then.
Yeah.
And we didn't. We
yeah.
didn't. So
So speaking of that, that was going to be my next question to you, Jeff, is sometimes the really tough part of acquisitions is the people, right?
mhm.
Are you bringing along the staff? How is the staff going to mix together? Is it going to jive? And it sounds like both acquisitions, you did bring people on. Did
Yes.
you keep offices as well? So they're
Yes.
still at separate offices? Okay, so they're at separate offices, but how did you create synergy between all 3 offices then? Was there a strategy there? Did you kind of let it happen organically?
Um, it's communication, right? And we're trying to do more and more of that culture building. We're trying to get back in the day when we first started, we did everything kind of the way that it was done. Um, we'd get together one time a year at a Christmas party, and that was it. Now we've tried to schedule fun, if you will,
Yeah.
into our calendar. The use of it used to be Slack, and then we transitioned to Teams because we're on with Microsoft. Um, we have now 3 virtual assistants that are part of our meetings. They're part of our day. We're trying to bring them along as well. But the 3 locations, we just did something this early spring where we had each one of our commercial lines account managers go over to the Papillion location because there's 2 producers over there, and then there's 1 personal lines account manager. So doing that, getting them now post COVID, everybody has a laptop. That was a learning experience, so they can go over there, plug into the desk, their computer into the desk there, have dual monitors just like they do back here, and that was great for them to be able to get to know the people over there. So
Yeah.
there's multiple avenues that you can do but I think they're people to people interaction is the best. I'm very weary of 100% remote work. It
Mm.
It's
just
tough.
it's tough. It's tough for
Mhm.
culture. But I really enjoy our virtual assistants, and they're doing a fantastic job. And we have
Yeah.
one person that was with us over there in Papillion that moved up to Wisconsin, and she's 100% remote now. So it's working out for her.
So what do you think the biggest advice you'd give to someone as they're evaluating an acquisition? Let's give a scenario. So just like you had either a customer or a carrier rep, et cetera, says, hey, there's this opportunity. What advice would you give? Like what are the top 5 things you'd tell someone if they've never done it before?
Top 5 things. Well, first, it's a relationship. They have to feel comfortable with you. So you can't just say, hey, this is an acquisition opportunity. You need to go in there and become friends. Kind of have a does this fit meeting. My second acquisition came from a auto owner's rep.
Yep.
After a meeting, I pulled her into the conference room and said, hey, in 2011, this was 2011, I was at NP Dodge Insurance, and I asked her, I said, do you know anybody that doesn't have a succession plan? It's getting older, doesn't have a son in the business, a daughter in the business. They don't have a plan. She goes, yeah, I do. So she gave me that name since 2011, and that acquisition didn't happen until 2018.
So play the long game.
So play the long game. Don't be greedy. Just be yourself. I got up to the table, I don't know how many times that seller was not ready. I think what made him ready is he had 2 producers pass away the same year, the same age as the seller.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's a risky agency.
So that was his eyes were open. He didn't want that to happen to his wife. He didn't want to leave her in the lurch. And then I would also say another tip was each person, when they retire, is going to have a different definition or view of what their retirement should look like, and let them kind of set it. It doesn't really do you any disservice unless the person that you're buying from is somebody you don't want to hang around, but it helps retention. Like here, people say, is Jay still around? Yeah, 1 day a week, maybe for an hour, but he pops in.
You can answer yes truthfully.
And it's great, right? He's still around.
Yeah.
To that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. To that point, Jeff. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
To that point, I had a grandson. So I had a grandfather to father to son. And I'll never forget it. The father that is now transitioning to his son was reflecting on his transition with his father and saying he was not as kind or as patient with his dad. And now that he's in the chair, having to look at his own retirement, he's realizing, oh my goodness, that was not as easy for my dad to do because I'm struggling with what retirement looks like for me. I think acknowledging how difficult it is for someone who has built an agency or carried on a legacy or whatever that is for 30 plus years to face the next chapter in their life, someone who is patient, who lets them help define it, are going to be people they trust. Like that's just because it's a tough transition. There's just no 2 ways around that, right?
100%. 100%. I think the other thing is, they've built such a great relationship with their clients that they don't want this private equity to come in and, now they're just a number.
Exactly.
So there are opportunities.
No doubt. No doubt. So play the long game, be patient, and have some empathy is what I heard.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patience is not something I have. I have persistence. So
that's a better way of saying it. Yeah.
I was very persistent. I would be like that salesperson that's always calling you and you don't pick up the phone when he calls, but he just continued to call. So that was me.
Yeah, we could call it persistence. That's probably better because I don't think any of us that are A player or, A type personalities have a lot of patience. But what I also heard is know what you want and be willing to walk away. Like if you don't know your list of deal breakers, you really could go down a road because the momentum takes you there rather than it being the right road to be on. Right. Yeah.
I think you're right, Carey.
Yeah. So anyway, well, I appreciate you sharing your time with us. While I would prefer to be sitting at that table with that absolutely gorgeous view, it has been fantastic spending time with you today as well. if anybody wants to reach out to you, we're going to share your contact information if someone wants
Please
to
do.
talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being our guest. I appreciate it, Jeff.
Thanks, Lindsay, and thanks, Carey. I very much appreciate it.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Insurance Refocused podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review so you'll never miss us. Want to learn more about how Agency Focus can help you grow your agency? Head to agency-focus.com or email Carey directly at carey@agency-focus.com. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at lindsay@agency-focus.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.